Did you know the basic title in Davinci Resolve has snapping? Check it out, I can snap it about. Oh hey, I know, simple but easy to miss. And I've got a few more simple tips for making use of that standard basic title in Davinci Resolve. You know the one that sits in the effects library, in the toolbox, titles, and is simply called text. It says basic title over on the left. We click, we drag, we drop it on the timeline, we make it a little bit longer, we give it a click, open up the inspector, top right hand corner, video, title, and we have all of the controls within there. Simple. We're not talking about text plus in this one. We'll save the text plus discussion for another video. So let's kick things off with pinning, which I've kind of already showed you, but let me show you again. So basic title on the timeline, we're ready to go. Now this is actually slightly funny because usually whenever you do anything within the preview window, you need to come down here to this little drop down and make sure you select the thing that you want to do. This is actually the opposite. You need to make sure that you have nothing selected. So I've got transform on at the moment. This little icon is white. We give that a click to turn it off. And now we have nothing actually activated. When there's nothing activated, make sure your playhead is over your title so you can actually see it within the preview. Then we simply click and drag and we can move it around and snapping will appear. We can snap to the center, the upper center, and the corners. Easy peasy, job done. Now also on a similar vein, same thing, make sure it's in the preview window, make sure nothing's selected, give it a single click this time, and then you get these little handles and you can actually do transforms. Now this is these transforms here within the actual title, not the main transform. So we're changing the position, the zoom, and the rotation. So you can click, move this around, make it bigger and smaller. And then to change the rotation, you use this little fella right at the top, click, drag, give it a little spinneroonie, and off you go. Whee! Super simple, easy peasy, makes sense. Next up, I just want to show you the shadow and the background controls. Now these aren't secrets, they're very obvious, but sometimes they trip people up because they're not immediately obvious what you need to do. This will only take a few seconds. So within the inspector, we scroll down, we've got drop shadow. And this can confuse people because you put the blur all the way up and the opacity and you make sure it's on and it doesn't actually work. You just need to move the offset. So as soon as you move the offset, it will appear. Now the background is very similar. You come down and you have a look and you add the colors and you can't figure out why it's not quite working. You just need to give it some height and then it will appear and then you just adjust the height and the width as required. Easy peasy. You can also use that really simple background control to make a kind of subscribe button if you want. Make the text white, give it a background around the corners, make it red. Done. Next up, I want to talk about fonts. It's just a quick message to let you know. Don't know why I said message, sounded really formal. I want to tell you about fonts. So all of the fonts within Davinci Resolve are just your system fonts. They pull through from your PC or Mac or whatever you're using. So if you want more fonts in Davinci Resolve, just download some fonts. Just go to any website where you can get fonts, install it on your machine. Usually you just double click and it will install the fonts. And then you open up Davinci Resolve and those fonts will be there available for you to use in your basic title. Simple. I've actually put some good websites to get free fonts from down in the description below. So give them a click, have a little look. Hey, what have we got next? Oh yeah, clicking in the preview. You can actually highlight text and click around in the preview. Again, this is one of those things which is obvious that you should be able to do it, but it doesn't actually tell you anywhere that you can do it. But, well, you can. So we've got a basic title here, and if I wanted to go in and adjust it, usually you jump into the inspector and you'd come in here and you'd type away. However, you don't actually need to do that. In the preview window, once again, if you double click this time, you'll notice my little box just went red, and now I can actually click and I can move the cursor around. You can see it's actually moving around within the rich text area, and then I can just type doodle-doo, doodle-doo. And that also works with the inspector closed. So with the inspector closed, let's click off it. We just double click. You can't actually see where you are, which is a bit strange. But we can just change that to be MrAlexTech or whatever. And sometimes it's just a little bit easier than jumping into the box. Boxless entry. Oh, that sounded... I don't think that means anything bad, but it sounds like it does. Ugh. Anyway, sticking with a similar theme, I'm actually going to cover two things here. Highlighting, using the same thing we just did. You can actually highlight portions of your text from the preview window, but also character-specific formatting. This thing that should be on screen now is just one single title, rather than multiple titles. So, MrAlexTech is super cool. That's what my mum tells me, and that's what I'm sticking with. So, what we can do here, again, we double click, and then we can click and drag, and we can actually highlight certain parts of our text. It actually looks a bit weird. Don't know why it's doing that. But if we look in here, you can see it is selecting as required. Now, you can do character level formatting. So, let's highlight MrAlexTech. And we're going to make this a bit bigger, maybe change the font, maybe change the color. Whatever, we can change that. And then is super cool. We'll highlight that. We'll change this to be a different font. And we're going to make this all caps. And maybe change the tracking and the line spacing and the color once again. And there you go. So just from a single box, we can change the font of the stuff within it. And it just makes life a little bit easier. Now, quick warning for this. If you then try and change any of these elements without anything selected, it will make the assumption that you're trying to change it for everything. So obviously my MrAlexTech and the rest of the text are different sizes. It doesn't know which I'm changing it for, so it will change the size for all of them. Now, kind of random, kind of niche, but you can also use this technique to do something called subscripts or superscripts. This is really niche, but let me show you really quick. So if I've got the word squared in here, and then I want the tiny little 2 to represent squared, I can just put the number 2. I can highlight just the number 2. And then down here in font style, you have got your, I think it's called a subscript and a superscript, those two. Either way, you can just change them to the correct formatting, the correct font style, if you need to. There you go. Hopefully there's at least one person who found that useful. If that's you, let me know down below. Next up, emojis. Smiley faces, aubergines, pizza, whatever. All of the built-in emojis on your system should be available to use in Davinci Resolve. Now, this is a funny one because it's system dependent. It will depend on what system you're using and how you actually do this. Because what we're actually doing is just pulling through the built-in emoji keyboard and then using that in Davinci Resolve. So if you're on Windows, like I am, you hold down the Windows key and then you hit the full stop, or the period, as you would call it in America land. And that will pull up the emoji keyboard. If you're on a modern Mac, you should just be able to hit the FN key. And if you're on an older Mac, it's something else. I can't remember. Google it, though, or I'll put it on the screen somewhere because it's a different shortcut. But if you can't find it on your machine, just literally Google the name of your machine or your operating system, emoji keyboard, and it should come up. So click in my box, hold Windows and hit the full stop or the period key, and it's going to open up this emoji picker. Now, something I've seen catch people out in the past, if it looks like this, it's got the old school ones, you just have to click back, which is the little arrow here, and then make sure you're on this emoji one, and you'll see the emojis within here. Then we can simply click the one we want. It's going to pop into the box and appear on the preview. Then we click on our little close, and there you go. We can go back into it once again, and we can pick a different one. We can pick a few. Not all of them kind of look the same. You can see that heart looks different. I don't know why. I don't have an answer. Sometimes it does slightly odd things, but there you go. Now, talking of weird things, if you make these too big, they can start to glitch out and do slightly weird things. Again, I don't really know why. So what I tend to do, I'll make them as big as I can and make sure they're still working like that. And then if I do need them any bigger, I'll jump over to settings and then I'll just zoom in. You will lose a little bit of quality, but generally speaking, I can't imagine you'll ever need an emoji quite this big, but I just wanted to let you know. Emojis, love them or hate them, they're there and they are available to use. Right, last up, you can save these. Any simple titles that you create using this simple basic title thing in Davinci Resolve can be saved. Now, it's not a proper save. We're going to save them using power bins. If you've never heard of power bins, I've made videos on them in the past. I'll link them somewhere, or just search for Davinci Resolve power bins. They're super useful. Everyone needs to know what power bins are, but essentially it means that you can access certain things across all of your projects. It's as easy as that, and it takes seconds to set up. So first of all, in the media pool, make sure you've got power bins open over here. If you don't see power bins, you click on these 3 little dots and then just make sure that this show power bins is ticked and your power bins will appear. So I've got my text basic title down here with all my emojis. All I simply need to do, click, drag into my power bin, and it'll dump it in there like so. I can delete it off the timeline. If we double click where it says text, I can actually rename this. So I'm just going to put stupid emojis, and that will be available to me in any project I open. Then I can simply grab it from my power bin, put it on my timeline. It's there. It's got all the emojis in the same font, size, color, everything I needed. Job done. And there you go. Couple of tips for using the basic title in the edit page, in Davinci Resolve, I don't know. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.